What's up, everybody? Coffee with Pat, or actually, it's post-workout salt in my water with Pat, coming at you a little sooner than expected. Originally, I was intending on doing a video on Tuesday, sorry, but this had been percolating around in my brain a little bit, so I thought, hey, let me make a YouTube video, fire it out there into the YouTube verse, and see what comes back. So why you shouldn't take people's word for it. Now, before we get into it, I've had a lot of tips and advice given to me from people on YouTube when I posted videos, and I appreciate every single one of them. I would always rather somebody speak their mind on it. Like, you got to have an open discussion about stuff because there's so many different opinions about moves and exercises and tempos and eccentric and approaches to lifting that I think it's better that people should feel like they're able to talk about it and share it freely and not be concerned they're going to have a lot of backlash. So even if somebody comments something and I immediately disagree with it, I think it's great that people are talking about fitness. So we need more people talking about fitness, right? But sometimes I've gotten advice that I haven't followed. Sometimes I've gotten advice that I have followed. Everybody grows up learning about fitness differently. So that's part of where these different ideas come in, and you learn from different instructors or different people on YouTube or books. Arnold Modern Bodybuilding Encyclopedia was one of the ones I read. But anyway, so just to say that first, because I really appreciate all the advice people have given me. And, this isn't meant to hurt anyone's feelings or anything like that. But I've just had a number of experiences, and I wanted to share them to give you some food for thought. And yeah. So first thing, in college, I had a professor who was very against the knees going over the toes. And I also had a friend who was a great squatter, and they don't lift anymore, but they were huge on the no knees over the toes. Like, keep all the pressure on the lower back, all the pressure on the glutes. Whatever you do, don't let that knee go over the toe, because it's like super dangerous. And this was a thing, I want to say it was in the 80s too, 90s. Like, football coaches, don't let the knee go over the toe. Like, it's dangerous. You'll blow out your knee. And it's just not true. If you think about it, every time you step to go upstairs, your knee goes over your toe. So right there, it's okay for your knee to go over your toe, assuming you don't have any injuries and you can walk normally and whatnot. So that was one of my first experiences where I kind of questioned what I was told with regards to exercise, and I always let my knee go over my toe when I squat. Now I get much better quad gains. My front squats are much better because my knees are going over my toe. I get much better range of motion. A lot of different reasons. Now, again, this might not work for you. You gotta test things out on your own. That's the net message of the video here. Then behind the neck press is another very notable one that I started doing in college and feels really good on my shoulders. It still feels really good on my shoulders, and always I have people saying don't do it. And I think for some people it's definitely not in the cards because the shoulder mobility anatomically, maybe some people aren't able to do it. Same thing possibly perhaps with the knees over toes, but I've tested it for myself and it feels really good. I've seen some really good shoulder gains from it. Shoulder girdle has improved in size. It's one of those ones that, again, 80s, 90s, people are like, don't do it. Like, it's going to blow out your shoulders. I think anything, if you do it the wrong way, can potentially hurt you. So right there, that kind of negates this exercise versus that exercise. Like, if you put too much weight on that your body's not ready for, yes, that's going to hurt your shoulders. Same thing with squat or same thing with deadlift, or if you lift it with incorrect form. Moving right along, we got the bro split style. Now this stuff is more recent. Get some hydration in here. The bro split style being the chest and triceps, the back and biceps, shoulders on its own day, legs. I always trained with a lot of supersets, chest and back, quads and hamstrings. Everything was very efficient. And I think that took me to a certain point with my strength, but eventually I needed to take out the supersets and dedicate more time to each exercise. Because when I was doing the supersets, I would do chest, and then I would do back and chest, and I would have 3 exercises. And the problem with the supersets is that I think when you get to a certain point, your strength, like if you do chest, you do your bench press, then you go to your pull-ups. Once you finish those pull-ups, you go back to chest, your arms are going to be much more tired than if you had just done just chest and rested 4 minutes. Like I always do better when I do just chest. I rest 4 minutes, I go back to chest. Again, I think earlier in the lifting journey, supersets can be really good, especially if somebody doesn't have a lot of time or they're trying to get through a workout and cover all the bases a little bit quicker, But I've just found with the bro split, again, it's kind of frowned on in the scientific lifting community, I believe, that I've seen really good gains from it. I'm the strongest I've ever been using the bro split style. And I always stayed away from it because I heard early on, again, like with those other two things, don't do it. It's trash. It won't work. But I never tested it until literally a year ago. And then I started to do it and I was like, I feel good. Like my lifts are accelerating. Food for thought on that, literally. Have some food, get some calories in. That's another notable one. Then training every day. Same thing in college. This one starts, a long time ago. We learned like you can't possibly train every day. It's unsafe. You won't be able to recover. You won't be able to make progress. And forever, basically, again, until a year ago, I always thought that way. And I was like, okay, I guess, the human body just can't handle more than 4 to 5 days per week because this person says it. And then I started to get more consistent with doing 5 days per week. And then I thought, all right, well, 5 seems manageable. Like I still feel okay. Let me try 6 days per week. Got used to 6 days per week. And then what happened is on that rest day, that 7th day, I started to get bored. And I was like, I've got this pocket of time. The little guy's napping. Got about an hour and a half, 2 hours. I'm not bored, but just kind of feeling like I could do a workout. And so I started to think about, all right, how can I kind of restructure things? And eventually I moved my deadlifts off of my super long Friday and switched them to Thursdays and started doing deadlifts on Thursdays. And from the point when I switched those deadlifts to Thursdays, my deadlift shot up. And now, I've hit a 600-pound deadlift. So again, one of those things that we hear that I think you really got to test out for yourself to see, okay, I've heard that this isn't possible. Now what happens when I hear something's like not possible or, I should stay away from it? I'm almost kind of like more interested in it. You know what I mean? Squatting every day. Ivan, can't pronounce, I don't want to mess up the last name, but Ivan Squat Every Day has been squatting every day for like 800 days. Now, I'm not interested in doing that. He's a beast. Super cool channel. I just watched one of his videos today. He did like a 540 deadlift or something like that. 530. I'm not sure exactly because it was in kg. But most exercise people and scientists would say it's not possible to squat every day. And he's been doing it for 1,800 days in a row. I believe it's 1,800, 17 something. Another example. That's, way more intense than any of the stuff I just talked about. And then also bulking and cutting. When I was, again, in college, kind of the thought process that was drilled into me was like, just try and stay as lean as possible all the time. That'll be better for muscle growth. And I wish I had tested out the bulking and cutting earlier. Now, if you're 25 or 30% body fat, you may not want to continue to bulk. Your goals may be more lean oriented. There are some other factors there, but for myself, I was like 11% body fat or something like that. And it's challenging in general, as a general statement, to gain muscle when you're very, very low body fat if you're natural. If you're not natural and you're supplementing, good for you. But that's different. We're talking about natural lifting and staying that lean and being in that much of a calorie deficit all the time. So that's basically what it is. You're not consuming enough calories to get more body fat. So you're staying kind of right on the line. It's very challenging to progress your strength past a certain point. You can kind of stabilize and stay the same. And that's what I did for like 7 to 8 years. And I still enjoyed lifting, and thankfully I continued lifting. But then again, a year ago, I was like, well, let me start throwing some more calories in and see what happens if we try this bulking thing where we gain a little bit of body fat. I didn't gain a ridiculous amount of body fat. I did a in-body test the other day, and it was at 14 something. But it was another one of those things that I always heard, no, stay as lean as possible. Stay as lean as possible. That's the best for muscle building. You'll be stronger, leaner. And I just took people's word for it and did not test it out myself. And that's the net message of this video, is with stuff that's safe, obviously. If anything's unsafe, then don't. But there are a lot of things possibly that could benefit you that maybe you're not trying because you've heard from somebody that it's potentially, I don't know, it's just not the most optimal way. That's probably the net message there. And again, a lot of this is person to person. You got to figure out what works for you. You don't want to snap anything up or anything like that, like a behind the neck press. I think if you're going to try it, you got to start very, very, very light, and you cannot progress all the way to failure, because it does, stretch the shoulders more. And with squatting, knees over toes, if you've always done them keeping your knees behind the toes, it's going to take you a little while to get used to it. Same thing with a bro split style. There's a lot of, I don't know what the term would be, caveats, little catches here and there, little asterisk points. But in general, I think you've got to test things out for yourself. And we hear a lot of these absolutes, and the opinions about these things change all the time. Like the opinions about red meat have done this. And with like eggs, goes up and down. Eggs were really good, then they were really bad. Now I think maybe they're good again. A lot of this lifting stuff, some of it is person to person, and you got to test stuff out. Like with the training program, that I've created and that I do now, a lot of it is just trial and error and testing things and seeing if it does work. And I don't hold myself back based on some opinion that's been long formed for years or whatever, and is just kind of established as a, you can't do this. I'm like, well, let me test it out and let me see. So anyway, I don't want the video to be too long. I just felt like sharing that because there's a ton of other instances with movements, and with like bench press. I was always told to tuck my elbows in as much as possible, and I basically stalled out at like 205 and then started to move my grip out, and it started to get better. I wish I'd changed that up a little earlier. But again, I could go on for a long time about those type of movements, and stuff there, but I don't want to do that. I want to end the video here and post this and see what happens. Again, it's not meant negatively toward anyone at all. I appreciate all the advice and all the tips I've gotten from people. Lots of really good tips and advice. I just think a lot of stuff with fitness, you've got to test out for yourself and take good notes, document, see what happens. And then, okay, did that work? Did that not work? There's been a lot of things that have been a hard no, and I've tested them and I've been like, wait a second, this actually works really well. Alex Leonidas did videos on behind the neck pull-ups, working really, really well for him. That was something he was told, like, absolutely don't do it. It's going to snap your neck up. Behind the neck press, he also did a video on recently saying how he was always told the same thing, like, don't do it. It'll snap your neck up. And maybe it will for a lot of people, but for myself, behind the neck press, behind the neck pull-ups also, behind the neck press more because I've been doing it longer, ended up being a really good movement. So anyway, that's it for today. Stay safe out there. Don't do anything unsafe. Progress slowly if you're changing things up or trying something new. But remember, a lot of this fitness stuff, it's still being discovered. It's still being tested. So when somebody comes at you with an absolute about something, in my mind, I should probably question this. Like there's a certain person on the Instagram with absolutely insane, crazy looking lifts that are all like unilateral and balance oriented and just look ridiculously challenging to set up. And that person says that their way, they've never gotten anyone injured ever. And it's like, that's not possible. Like people, that's just not a possible statistic. So anyway, we're getting off track. Test it for yourself, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.